Hey everybody, this is Larry from the Shiz and Kid back again, and welcome back to yet another video. This is actually a video that I wanted to do for a long time. So, me being a Marvel fan, you guys probably already know that I am a huge fan of not only the comics, but also the movies that Marvel has to offer. Whether it's from Marvel Studios or 20th Century Fox, who owns X-Men and Fantastic Four, it could be any of them. Although, if you were to ask me what is my favorite Marvel property outside of the MCU, it would definitely be the X-Men film series, and they have made so many great films over the years. Even though they did have a few hiccups here and there, X-Men Origins, they still managed to put out some of the greatest superhero films of all time, such as X2, X-Men Days of Future Past, Deadpool, and Logan. But today, we're going to be talking about Deadpool. Deadpool is one of those movies that were long overdue, especially for the superhero film genre, and it's definitely the best X-Men solo film to come out in a while, at least before Logan stole that crown. I'm sorry, but Logan was a better film. But in the sense, besides, let's just look at it besides Logan, because I want Deadpool to stand on his own merits. He definitely has the best solo film. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we are here to talk about is the development of Deadpool. If you guys actually do a whole lot of research on the development of Deadpool, it's very interesting, especially if you're into the whole movie making process like I am. So let's begin. So the history of Deadpool goes all the way back to May of 2000. A studio by the name of Artisan Entertainment, which a lot of people know as Lionsgate, announced a deal with Marvel Entertainment during that same month and year in order to co-produce and finance and distribute several films based on Marvel Comics characters, and one of them was Deadpool. The unfortunate part is that things never really clicked with Artisan, and 4 years later they got merged in with Lionsgate. And at the time, Lionsgate had the rights to The Punisher and Man-Thing, and we already know that they produced two of those. Well, actually, The Punisher movie wasn't that bad, but of course they produced Man-Thing, but we're getting off topic. So by February of 2004, the rights to Deadpool got reverted to New Line Cinema, which was the same studio that owned the Blade movies. That same year, Blade Trinity was around. In fact, that's why New Line Cinema was able to work on a Deadpool film, because of the writer and the director of the movie, David S. Goyer, and star Ryan Reynolds, were actually working on it together at New Line Cinema. This is mainly because of Ryan Reynolds' performance as Hannibal King in Blade Trinity, and everyone thought that he was perfect. Even Ryan Reynolds himself expressed so much interest in playing the part after learning that the Deadpool character referenced his own appearance in the comics, saying, and I quote, "Ryan Reynolds crossed as a Sharpay." So then, Jeff Kaz, the executive of New Line Cinema, thought Ryan Reynolds was actually the perfect casting choice. In other words, New Line Cinema was the very first studio to have Ryan Reynolds as their first casting choice as Deadpool before 20th Century Fox came in. Speaking of 20th Century Fox, there were rights issues, so the main reason why New Line Cinema never got to make a Deadpool film is because of rights issues with 20th Century Fox and their X-Men films. Since 20th Century Fox owns the X-Men, as far as making movies, and the fact that the Deadpool character commonly appears in the X-Men or X-Force movies, that's the main reason why the rights got reverted to 20th Century Fox, and that's why New Line Cinema's version of the Deadpool film never moved forward. It's pretty much one of those things where you think, what if? Then by 2005, the very next year, Fox expressed so much interest in making a film that features Deadpool, which led to his cameo appearance in the 2009 film X-Men Origins Wolverine, with Ryan Reynolds as the cast. Kaz, who was executive at Fox by this point, who used to be the executive of New Line Cinema, said that Deadpool was nicely set up to be explored in his own way in a future film. The only biggest problem is that the Deadpool character who appears in X-Men Origins got panned by critics because of the way he was portrayed in this one. He deviates from the original comic character by giving him all these superpowers and sewing his mouth shut, which, FYI, came from Thomas Rothman, who at the time was another executive at Fox, who now works with Columbia for the Spider-Man films. So the character then apparently dies in the film, but in the post-credit scene, it reveals that the character actually never died at all. It technically foreshadowed that another Deadpool film would be out. Despite X-Men Origins not being critically received, It was successful in the box office, especially during its opening weekend. This led to Fox beginning development on the Deadpool film. They casted Ryan Reynolds to be the main star of the film, and they had Lauren Donner, who is probably the best X-Men producer in the series, was also hired to produce the film. The spin-off was basically set to ignore the X-Men Origins version of Deadpool and take the character back to his humble roots for his slapstick humor and breaking the fourth wall. In January of 2010, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick were hired on to write the script, and if you don't know who Rhett and Paul are, they're basically the best X-Men writers out there right now. And Ryan Reynolds is actually very good friends with them, and he even said himself that they just understood Deadpool right off the bat. By June of that same year, Robert Rodriguez, who by the way is a famous director, was actually asked to direct the film, which he confirmed a month later, saying that he thought that the script of the movie was really good and he actually considered being in the project. However, months later in October, he became no longer interested in the project. Then they looked at another director named Adam Berg, who was also looked at on, but again, things never happened. Then in April of 2011, Tim Miller was hired to make his directorial debut with the film, and the reason why he got this job is because of his visual effects work in some of the X-Men films. I really can't say which one it was because he's not necessarily credited, but he has had at least some history with the X-Men films. He also did some work creating animated short films. And yeah, this is where the CGI comes in, but we'll get to that in a second. In that same year in 2011, the Green Lantern film starring Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan, aka Green Lantern, came out, which was obviously a disaster. This led to Fox executives actually being concerned about its R-rated content, obviously Deadpool, of course. But then the studio later agreed at several meetings that the film shouldn't be reconfigured to a traditional PG-13 rating, and not only that, but they also gave Miller a low six-figure budget so that way he could produce some test footage. This led to Miller creating test footage with his CGI company Blur Studio in 2012, and Ryan Reynolds was voicing Deadpool. The footage unfortunately did not convince Fox to greenlight the film. However, when Marvel's The Avengers came out, the MCU film, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick thought that Deadpool may have been approved as an already developed superhero film. But the problem is that Fox were doubtful about the script, and they began exploring with ways to potentially include Deadpool in an Avengers-style team-up film. X-Force. Also, at different times during the development, James Cameron, another famous director, and David Fincher, who were both friends with Tim Miller, actually read the film's script, and they thought it was really good, and they championed the project to Fox executives. The test footage that Tim Miller made was leaked online in July of 2014, and it was met with an overwhelmingly enthusiastic response. And that September in that same year, Fox officially gave Deadpool a release on February 12th of 2016. Production would begin in March of 2015, and Simon Kinberg joined as the producer. And Simon Kinberg, for those who don't know, is another X-Men producer who's also really good, set to make his directorial debut in the upcoming X-Men film X-Men Dark Phoenix, but that's a whole nother story. The film took only 2 months to film. It was filmed in Vancouver, Canada, and it filmed from March and May of 2015. And that's exactly how Deadpool was made. By February of 2016, the film would officially be released in theaters, which got positive reviews from critics, claiming that Ryan Reynolds' performance was amazing, and they also enjoyed the film style and the faithfulness to the comics, as well as its action. Also, some people also criticized it for the sheer amount of jokes in the film, which is actually kind of strange considering the fact that Deadpool is known for telling a number of jokes like it does in the comics, but that's not important. Now you probably wouldn't expect a movie like Deadpool to be so successful, right? I mean, it's just an R-rated superhero film, but it actually made so much history. It made history in cinema. It became the overall highest grossing R-rated film of all time, the highest grossing X-Men film, and the 9th highest grossing film of 2016. So this movie broke numerous records, and you probably wouldn't have thought that a movie like this wouldn't have broken that many records, but it actually did. Bottom line, Deadpool was an amazing film, and the development process is actually very interesting. It really showed that it took basically 16, maybe 14, or maybe I would say maybe 12 to 16 years to make this movie. The development actually really started in 2004, but I would say maybe 12 years at least. I don't know. Just tell me what you guys think in the comments below, because I would actually be interested in actually having some more information about this. And that's exactly how Deadpool was made. Needless to say, great film with a great backstory of how it was developed. So if you guys did enjoy this, be sure to subscribe for more videos from the Shizzle Network. And until then, peace out and deuces, be on the infinite. And as always, think for yourself.